Before we begin, this is gonna be kind of a different video format by me. If you know me, you'll know that most of my content is in Spanish, but I want this video to be seen by English speakers as well, because I think this can be very interesting. Most of you might know what SPV3 is, that big Halo C campaign overhaul mod. Nowadays, community has mixed opinions about it, and not to mention the controversies, but I don't intend to either praise or demonize anything or anyone here. My goal with this video is to document Halo modding history. A common criticism people have towards SPV3 is how the extended levels make the game drag on for too long. Well, wait till you see what the predecessor could have been. As you might have figured by the number 3 in SPV3, this wasn't the first time these modders engage in campaign overhaul mods. SPV1 and SPV2 were a thing. SPV1 was pretty basic, the vanilla campaign with a couple of new guns and vehicles and some retexturing. SPV2 was more ambitious, extending some levels with new map geometry. However, SPV2 was cancelled, but they still released unfinished builds of the campaign levels. Due to the unfinished nature of these builds, some levels can be completed with no issues through these new extended segments, others cannot. In the case of Assault on the Control Room, is the latter. In fact, the extended sections here are the most unfinished from the levels that have those, making them feel very liminal and mysterious and kinda creepy. What about we take a look at them? We'll find the start of the extended areas after we go underground with the Scorpion and cross the bridge. After opening the second door, instead of finding the Rolling Thunder subtitle and the incline filled with jackals, we find this weird hallway that goes to the left. If we follow it, we'll find a brand new open area. These areas have no encounters, no scenery pieces, no proper light maps nor shaders, and there seems to be no trigger volumes to load the next BSPs, which means that this mission is virtually impossible to complete through normal means. Back in the day, what people did is use the switch BSP command to load the default BSP and then play the level as normal. Since there are no trigger volumes, as I just said, we're gonna be using that same command to manually move to the other BSPs. This is the first BSP we find. Let's call it area number 1. I can see a lot of big-scale vehicle combat taking place in here. We can find 2 tunnels in this BSP. One is at the end, and the other leads to the next BSP. There's also some reused geometry from a custom map our team made in 2007. Area number 2 is kinda similar to the first one. There are a bunch of natural tunnels that serve as alternative routes, there's a door in the walls of the canyon that leads nowhere, and another tunnel leading to another BSP. Area number 3 is a copy of the interior area where we start the level. This time there are several doors with dead ends. In the same BSP there's also an exterior part with a forerunner structure that is actually reused from another old map by our team. Over here we have some reused geometry from the multiplayer map Sidewinder. There's also some invisible geometry over here, suggesting that the BSP was supposed to continue. Area number 4. Area number 4 is a rather familiar environment, isn't it? This right here is one of the few BSPs that was reused in the SPV3 rendition of this level. However, there's a big difference. Here in SPV2, this area is open to the sky, while in SPV3, the BSP was modified and turned into a massive underground area. And at first, this is all I could find, but there's actually more. I wasn't the only one investigating these BSPs. Altis was taking a look as well. He was looking for ideas for his modding project. At some point he asked me if I found the Gyphyrophobia BSP, and I was like, what? And then he sent me some screenshots. I realized that this is a BSP that also gets reused in SPV3. If you played SPV3 in the past, it's that massive area where you make the final approach to the ziggurat where the control room is, and also has geometry of the map Gyphyrophobia half buried in the snow. But the thing is that I was confused because on my end, I kept switching between the BSPs, even tried opening them with the mod tools, but there was no Gyphyrophobia BSP here, and later I learned that Altis had a different build of SPV2's Assault on the Control Room. So yeah, turns out there are 2 builds of this level rolling around, and I didn't know. Anyway, so I got the same build he was using, and yep, I found quite a lot of different things. I think we're gonna start again. Let's go back where the extended BSPs start, let's cross this weird hallway again, and here we go. While the shaders and light maps are still kinda fucky, now we have scenery pieces, the BSP has been modified, and there's enemy encounters, with raids, turrets, ghosts, and infantry. In this part of the BSP, instead of the terrain going slightly up like in the previous build, it goes down. There's also some floating rocks, probably from before the BSP was modified this way. Moving forward, there's another encounter with marines, 3 raids on a cliff, and some infantry. The geometry of the map twist has been deleted, and now there's a natural tunnel that leads us to an open area inside the same BSP. Here we find a collapsed forerunner bridge and a massive enemy encounter. In this new area there's yet another useless forerunner door, and a tunnel that leads to the next BSP. And as we approach this tunnel, we get some Cortana lines from Halo 2, which don't really make sense, but okay.
Registering all hostile vessels inside the cruiser. 13 cruisers. I'm going loud.
This time we actually get a trigger volume that switches the BSP automatically. At the other side we find the infamous BSP that reuses gyrophobia geometry, and it's also seen in SPV3. There are some differences in the geometry though. For example, the tunnel exit is on the side of the area and not facing the Forerunner structure, while in SPV3 it's on the center of the area and the player will be facing the structure as he leaves the tunnel. The way up is also different, forcing you to go through gyrophobia in order to keep climbing. There's also this thing, which also exists in SPV3, but it's on a completely different place. Once on top, there is no control room. Instead we got a Forerunner wall, and the way to progress to the next BSP is another tunnel nearby. Now, about the enemy encounters, we'll be welcomed by a shitton of ghosts, hunters, an anti-air raid on top of the biggest structure, and some other fodder. As we go up, we'll find some fellow marines, some of them driving scorpions. However, the marine AI doesn't seem to go very well with the tanks. So anyway, the marines will try to follow you to the next encounter, which once again has a ridiculous amount of enemies. Making our way through more hordes of the Covenant, we'll reach the top and take the tunnel to the next area. Unfortunately, we'll find a dead end, in the shape of a wall with our team's name in it, and some funky portal in error too. But with the help of the switch BSP command, we can load the next BSP manually. From now on, this is what we'll have to do again every time, so obviously the following areas aren't supposed to be accessed to and are the most unfinished. Area number 3. Once again we find that one BSP that reuses geometry from the start of the level. But there's one big difference. The outdoors part has been cut out completely. The cloudy effects in the ceiling are broken. The light maps on this BSP look better than in the previous build, but I wouldn't say they are finished. Oh, and we still have all those doors that serve no purpose. Also, as expected, there are no enemies here, just some dead marines with ammo and supplies, and some safe turrets. If we try to proceed where the outdoors area was in the previous build, we find a lone scorpion and a closed door, but if you get close, it opens, revealing another R10 wall, which means that we'll be manually switching BSP again. Area number 4. The outdoor area we were expecting has been turned into its own BSP. The textures and light maps look more finalized, and we also have scenery pieces now. Some of the sidewinder geometry that was present before has been cut. In the part from the previous build where we used to see the void, there is a cave now, and inside it there's a pretty unique looking Forerunner environment. As we approach this new environment, we see a closed door. Then we keep moving down to reach some interesting interiors, with 2 more dead ends to the sides and the next tunnel right in front of us. Area number 5. After another R10 wall and a manual BSP switch, we reach again that massive area with the light bridges that was reused in SPV3. The BSP has proper shaders, light maps, and the scenery pieces are set up, and this time the light bridges are activated. Maybe not. As we enter the area, there's a crashed Pelican to the right. We approach the light bridge and yes, we just checked it has no collision despite being visible. There's a device right before it, but it does nothing. Actually, there are devices in all 4 light bridges, but they don't activate anything. I was hoping that maybe the bridges would acquire collision, but that wasn't the case. Also, in the 2 areas that are used as filler in the SPV3 rendition of the level, the doors have devices next to them, but they do nothing. Still, just like before, the doors will open if you stand close to them, revealing the void at the other side. So, since we can't cross the bridge because 1, there's no collision, and 2, I would get banned from YouTube, we use the cheat teleport to camera command to get to the other side and enter the next tunnel. Before we leave, we can also see the door through which we enter this area in the SPV3 version of the level. Again, there's nothing at the other side. As we move through the tunnel, we find a dead end, but not before seeing the Rolling Thunder subtitle, and there's some enemies here, but they are frozen in time. The Rolling Thunder subtitle and the placement of these copies suggests that this is where the extended section ends. So, we try switching manually to the first BSP, and yeah, we're back into familiar places, right in the area that was supposed to come next before we enter the extended segment, marking the end of the journey through the back rooms of SPV2's Assault on the Control Room. If you thought the extended levels of SPV3 were exhausting, what do you think of this? Imagine if SPV2 was never canned. I seriously think CMD was smoking something back in the day when they were making this. And I don't say that only for this level. Yeah. If this video is well received, I might make another one for the extended areas of the other SPV2 levels, which, unlike Assault on the Control Room, are mostly playable, but still might be cool to document. So, not much more to say. I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope you learned something new, and see ya!